Today on Mushroom Journeys, parasites eating parasites. What a world.
It's mushroom time, let's go outside, see what we find. It's mushroom time, it's time for mushroom journeys.
This video is for entertainment purposes only. Wild mushrooms and plants can be harmful or fatal if swallowed.
Hi friends, it's a beautiful day here in southern Indiana, the last week of July. We're starting to get some new types of mushrooms, some more fall types of mushrooms, and it's beginning to be the time where I start to find lots of honey mushrooms. Honey mushrooms are a delicious edible mushroom with caution, probably not for beginners. And where you can find honey mushrooms, you can also find the shrimp of the woods, the kind of parasitized, zombified version of the honey mushroom that's being eaten by another fungus, the abortive Entoloma. So today, let's go over all the types of honey mushrooms in the eastern United States, and then we'll talk about the shrimp of the woods, and then we'll head into the kitchen for a little taste test. Why are they called honey mushrooms? Because they taste sweet? No, they're called honey mushrooms because they have kind of an amber, tan, brownish honey color, from yellow to orangish to brownish tan. And they are an edible mushroom, but they do have some toxic compounds that are a little harder to cook out than other mushrooms. So you do need to cook these extra well. I usually parboil mine for like about 5 minutes before I cook them in the pan. And despite their raw toxicity, wild animals do eat honey mushrooms like white-tailed deer and squirrels. So you might have a little bit of competition trying to find these mushrooms. Honey mushrooms will always have a white spore print. They'll have a cream fertile surface and stem. Most of the honey mushrooms will have a ring, and they often have little scales on their cap as well. Their mycelium glows in the dark. It's what we call foxfire. If you ever see a log glowing green in the night, that might be the result of honey mushroom mycelium within the log. Honey mushrooms also have these big black bootlace-like tentacles that reach out through the forest floor and even up into trees in between the bark to start decomposing those trees. These rhizomorphs can grow up to 10 feet a year and reach a length of 60 feet or more. Honey mushrooms can be parasites or saprobes, meaning they can decompose dead tree material or living tree material. It's a very common tree parasite, so if you have honey mushrooms growing around the base of one of your trees, that's not a good sign for that tree. The fungus that creates honey mushrooms is often a monster, a beast, a predator, a parasite, and sometimes even a giant. Honey mushrooms can grow and spread as a big colony as a result of these rhizomorphs, and some of the largest organisms on the planet are colonies of honey mushrooms. You can often find these mushrooms around the base of a tree or along the root lines of a tree, near old stumps, or even fruiting from rotting wood itself. And there are many species in the eastern United States. Most are associated with hardwoods, but some can be found in association with conifers as well. There are 3 main ones that I find here in southern Indiana, and some more rare and regional honey mushroom species. So let's go over them. The most common honey mushroom is the ringless honey mushroom, Desarmillaria caespitosa. This will be the only honey mushroom on our list that does not have a ring, and the only honey mushroom in the Desarmillaria genus. You might see this mushroom listed as Armillaria tabescens in some older field guides. This is the most common honey mushroom by far, with 28,189 observations on iNaturalist, and it is found throughout eastern North America. These are very common mushrooms. They can come up in big clusters, and the clusters can have as many as 100 mushrooms. They have little fuzzy kind of hat-shaped caps in immaturity, and as they mature, they'll become more face-shaped. You'll see them come out in early August when you get your first cool nights and some moisture, and you'll just see them driving around. They come out in people's lawns quite often. And of course, these mushrooms have no ring on the stem, and that's how you can identify them. Next, we have the honey mushroom, or the common honey mushroom, Armillaria mellea. This one is found throughout the temperate areas of the world, and it has 13,689 observations on iNaturalist. This one has more of a yellowish top, especially in immaturity. It will grow in those tight clusters, usually around a stump or near a tree base, and it does not have quite as much of an umbo or a fuzzy top as the ringless honey mushroom, and of course, this one has a ring. And next we have Armillaria gallica, the bulbous honey fungus, distinguished by its swollen base. This is a smaller, more diminutive honey mushroom that doesn't grow in such big groupings or big tight clusters. It can be more of loose groupings, and it is a little brown mushroom with a ring. And this one has 2,958 research grade observations on iNaturalist. Often has a cottony veil as it matures. It will shed the veil and expose its fertile surface, and has little scales on the top. Kind of looks like a little mini shiitake mushroom. Armillaria gallica is the species that makes up the humongous fungus in Crystal Falls, Michigan, one of the largest organisms in the world, a single colony of genetically identical honey mushroom mycelium that spans 175 acres, might weigh up to 400 tons, and might be as many as 2,500 years old. Wow. I usually find this one later in the fall. It's hard to get to them sometimes before the animals do. It seems like they like this honey mushroom most of all. Next we have Armillaria solidipes, the dark honey mushroom. This one has 161 observations on iNaturalist, and this one is formerly called Armillaria astoye, but that's now the European version. Solidipes is the American version, and this one is known to associate with conifer trees and grows in pockets in the northeast of the country, the northwest of the country, and in Appalachia and in the Rocky Mountains. And I have found this one also growing in association with quaking aspens in Colorado, and this is the mushroom responsible for an even bigger colony of a fungus found in Oregon, the Malheur colony. An even more humongous fungus. This one spans 3.7 square miles, might weigh as much as 30,000 tons, and might be as many as 8,500 years old. This is the largest known organism on the planet by biomass. The largest known organism by square acreage is a seagrass that grows in Australia. Next we have Armillaria gemina. This is a more rare mushroom with only 10 research grade observations on iNaturalist. It looks very similar to Armillaria mellea. It's a little more stocky, it has scales on top, and it does have a cottony veil. This mushroom has a greater northeastern and Appalachian distribution. Next we have Armillaria cepistipes. This is a pretty rare one with only 4 observations on iNaturalist. It's known for growing in more northern climes. The 4 research grade observations are in Manitoba, Ontario, Minnesota, and Washington State. This mushroom is known for being a smaller, more delicate mushroom with a ring that often fades quite quickly, and it's not known to be a serious tree pathogen. This one is more just a wood decomposer. And this one is primarily a European species called the mullet honey fungus in Europe, sometimes called the onion-stemmed honey mushroom. Here in North America, it gets these names from its swollen base. Cepitosa means onion-stemmed, so yeah, you can see how that could resemble a green onion. So yeah, pretty cool. And our final honey mushroom of the eastern United States is Armillaria calvescens. This is an extremely rare honey mushroom, first described in 1989 in Quebec. There's only 1 research grade observation on iNaturalist, and that's in New York State. This mushroom is similar to Armillaria gallica, though often paler and with fewer scales on top. But yeah, you're probably not gonna find this one, so don't worry about it. Okay, that's it for those. Let's move on. Okay, now that we've gone over all the species of honey mushrooms in the eastern United States, let's talk about some dangerous lookalikes. The number 1 dangerous lookalike is going to be the jack-o'-lantern mushroom. It's a highly toxic mushroom that also grows near decomposing wood at the base of trees or stumps, and it has a tight growth habit and tight clumps, just like the honey mushrooms. But this will be a larger mushroom and a bright orange mushroom, although it can fade to kind of a brownish or more yellow color after being exposed to the elements. And also golden Pholiota or other Pholiota species can look similar to honey mushrooms. They can have a yellow cap and a lighter stem and grow in a tight clump or cluster around decomposing wood, just like the honey mushrooms would. That's another toxic lookalike. And you also want to look out for deadly Galerina. It's a wood decomposer, one of the most toxic mushrooms in the eastern United States. Deadly Galerina will have a ring in immaturity, but that quickly fades into more just a dark ring line or ring zone around the stem. This is a smaller, darker orangish brownish mushroom. It'll have a rusty brown spore print. That's probably the best way to differentiate it from a honey mushroom. And these will also be growing on decomposing wood. And one more dangerous lookalike for honey mushrooms would be various species of Gymnopilus mushrooms, like Gymnopilus luteus. Gymnopilus luteus is a common wood decomposing mushroom. It's a big, often yellowish mushroom, and it will have an orangish brownish spore print. So do be careful, check your mushrooms individually and make sure you have properly identified your honey mushrooms before you try to eat them. Now let's talk about the shrimp of the woods. The shrimp of the woods does not look like a shrimp. It's called that because of its texture. It has a very springy, meaty texture and tastes very delicious. Not exactly like a shrimp though, but it's a pretty close comparison. Who knows why we have all these weird chicken of the woods and shrimp of the woods and hen of the woods and steak of the woods. None of them really taste exactly like what their namesake is, but I digress. Anyway, the shrimp of the woods is kind of a white little globule, maybe kind of popcorn shaped, or looks like styrofoam packing peanuts a little bit. This is the result of the abortive Entoloma fungus taking over the honey mushroom and digesting it and using its nutrients. It's a weird little niche, a food source for the abortive Entoloma fungus, the honey mushrooms. Basically a parasite eating a parasite. Turnabout is fair play in this case. Let's look at the mushroom of the abortive Entoloma. It does have its own mushroom. This is a white medium mushroom with no ring on the stem, and it will have a pale pink fertile surface on the gills and a pale pink spore print. This is a technically edible mushroom, but I don't suggest eating this one at all, as many white mushrooms are toxic. They're hard to identify. Some of the most dangerous mushrooms on the planet are white mushrooms, so I would suggest avoiding this one.
Don't mess around with a big white mushroom.
I've never tried it, and I probably never will. When the abortive Entoloma fungus gets a hold of a honey mushroom and starts to devour it, it turns into what is called a carpophoroid. That's a fun word, carpophoroid. It's no longer a reproductive structure, as it doesn't produce spores. It's just a carpophoroid, but they are delicious, and there aren't really any lookalikes for these carpophoroids, and they only can come from a abortive Entoloma fungus eating a type of honey mushroom, although it could be any of these types of honey mushrooms. So you can find these shrimp of the woods carpophoroids growing among clusters of honey mushrooms, and you can also find them near abortive Entoloma mushrooms as well. I usually can find them kind of sparingly, but there are some amazing pictures of huge clusters of all three kinds of mushrooms all kind of commingling together. So if you happen upon some honey mushrooms or perhaps the abortive Entoloma mushroom, do look around. You may be able to find some shrimp of the woods as well. So here are some shrimp of the woods growing right next to this honey mushroom. Pretty cool. Always really excited to find shrimp of the woods. It may be one of the most delicious carpophoroids out there. Now let's head into the kitchen. We'll do a little taste test of the regular honey mushroom, the ringless honey mushroom, and the shrimp of the woods, keeping in mind that we do need to cook the regular honey mushroom and the ringless honey mushroom extra well. I'm going to be parboiling these for 5 minutes before I cook them in the pan. Shrimp of the woods, you don't have to worry about that. Just cook it as you would any normal mushroom. All right, let's head in. These mushrooms are known to be a little mucilaginous, especially if you pickle them or don't cook them too well. When I first started eating them, I was so afraid of the gastric upset that I cooked them extra well into like a crunchy mushroom cracker almost, which was pretty good. But this is a little less well done. Yep, it's a pretty good mushroom. A little bit of bitterness, but good mushroom flavor, good chew. 7 out of 10. All right, let's try our honey mushroom. Yeah, it's pretty good. Better than the ringless honey mushroom, as it has no slight bitterness. A little bit slimy in the texture from the boiling, but it's pretty good. 7.5, 8 out of 10. All right, now let's try our shrimp of the woods. That's good. Tastes very similar to the honey mushroom, but has a way better texture. That's good. 8.5 out of 10. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time on Mushroom Journeys.